Good morning. This is Breaking Through Addiction. My name's Dr. Rob Kelly. I am the Addiction Doctor. It's Wednesday. It's 9 o'clock here in San Antonio, and it's looking overcast today, Jen. I think it's going to rain.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Jennifer Lovely here, Dr. Rob's sidekick. It's a little overcast over here, but supposed to be sunny later. So excited by the September weather.
I know. It's awesome. I love September. I really do. I told Janet the other day, I said, wake me up when September comes. Guys, we have a great guest on today on Breaking Through Addiction, Rob Lohman. I was on his podcast a few weeks ago. Such an amazing guy. Every 9 o'clock, guys, Breaking Through Addiction. And today, we're going to do it again, guys. We're going to do the giveaways again today. We've got 2 books to give away today, one from me, one from Jen. They're both signed copies. And we'll throw in a T-shirt and a face mask as well for you. We'll come up with a question during the session over the next 20, 30 minutes that Rob's on. And then we'll break, obviously, as we normal, come back, and then we'll give you the question, and you can have the message in. Guys, for Facebook people, our Facebook followers are listening to this live, guys. You're so lucky. The other guys get recorded, and tonight it goes out on the 65 platforms and radio. First time we go on radio tonight. So the thousands of other people that are listening, you guys get it first live. So don't forget to keep checking in every Wednesday morning, just after 9. New guest every week. And we don't pick crap guests. We always pick the best ones. Jen, what are you up to today? Busy?
Yes, I'm busy. Well, my book came out yesterday, so there's a lot of little launch parties and different things like that. I'm super excited about the Addiction Diaries. Super just feel in gratitude that the story is out, and also that I'm on the back end of holding space for my children to recover. They are recovered, so that's really special. So doing good. Excellent stuff. I know when my book came out, I was really excited. It's such an exciting time. So glad your book's coming out. Can't wait to read it. I need a signed copy, though. Yes, obviously, of course. Because when we become super mega famous, it could be worth at least $20 instead of our $10 that we charge for our books, or whatever it is. Okay, guys, Rob Lohman's here on the show, and we're going to have a great time with Rob. So stick around. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Hey guys, welcome back. Breaking Through Addiction Wednesday morning. This is Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor, here with Jennifer Lovely, my sidekick as usual. And we're here with Rob Lohman. Good morning, Rob. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning. Doing awesome out here in Colorado. Thanks a bunch.
Excellent. Yeah. Jen, you go. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. So what part of Colorado are you living?
Fortunately, just outside of Littleton. Y'all were talking about rain and forecast earlier. We finally got some rain on the western slope to put some of those fires down, but it's been crazy in Colorado lately.
I bet. Have you always lived there?
I have not. I'm a mutt. Born in Indiana, raised in Texas, and then addiction took me all over the place. So
that's crazy.
But my wife's a native, so she's one of the unique people that born and raised in Colorado.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know about you, Rob. Wherever I go, we went to a furniture shop yesterday, and because I'm English, I'm like, where are you from? And I say, England. Oh, good. So you and your wife are from England. No, my wife's from Dallas. Oh, good. So whereabouts in England are you from, Janet? No, she's from Dallas, Texas. Oh, Texas. Oh, I couldn't tell. It's like, are you kidding me? 2 voices are completely different. There's 2 amazing different accents there, and they keep saying she's from England. Unbelievable. Rob, tell us what you're all about. Tell our viewers and our listeners what you're all about.
Oh man, I'm all about helping people find just freedom from addiction and like living an awesome life. So that's the focus of what I do, and a lot of advocacy work. But I just love seeing people change and live a better way.
So first question from me is: do you suffer from addiction yourself?
I been 19 years clean and sober from substances, and about 20 months from gambling. So there's always stuff to work on, I say.
Going through all the addictions that I've worked with over the last, I keep saying 27 years. It's actually 32, how fly goes. So we're going to round it up 30 years. The most difficult I've found to get my head around is gambling, to treat. It's like you can't really see an end result. You can't order it or get it or feel it, or I don't know. I mean, it's just it's really difficult. I mean, we've succeeded, but it's really difficult. What do you think differs between the gambling and the hard drugs, do you think?
Oh man. Well, one is just I don't have to put anything in my body to gamble. And I didn't even know I needed to work on it, honestly, until I found the world of addiction and recovery as far as a profession and doing interventions and coaching. And I'd attend all these seminars and just education, right? And they're talking about these process addictions. And I'm thinking, what's a process addiction? Oh, I got that. And that was, I mean, that's the thing that stuck around. Like, again, no substances for almost 20 years, but gambling was always there. And I just never understood how it really messed up with my head.
Well, will you tell us a little bit about process addictions so that our audience knows?
Yeah, for sure. Well, when you think about, people usually talk about like substance abuse, right? And substances, I have to put something in my mouth, or drink, or drugs, I have to take them. But gambling, it's all about the internal body and the mind and dopamine and just this. And the word process is really a great thing. I can think about times like when my wife would be going out of town with some girlfriends, and I'm thinking, okay, how can I get to the casino? Okay. And I would plan it out, right? And it's this whole journey of how can I get there? And for me, it was all about dopamine depletion, which I knew nothing about when I was in my addiction, but it's this chemical release of the pleasure center that's all messed up. And when you place that little bet, it's fun. But I feel like I found the most energy when I was down and I had to struggle to get back to the top.
So it's a lot like these phones.
Yeah, totally. Well, they say like process addictions is like, things with internet and shopping and, sex and food. And because again, with food addictions, we have to eat or we'll die, but we have to learn how to eat well. And, sex addictions, it's like, well, we're born to like, procreate and multiply, and it's like we have to learn how to be intimate with people, not sexually, but just relationally. And when this is all messed up here, it's hard to get back to center.
Is there gambling in the family?
My grandma liked to gamble a lot, but I don't know if there was the gambling addiction piece, because I didn't see financial ruin from people. And I didn't go to financial ruin, but I mean, I did have to file bankruptcy twice in my life. So, that was a part of it, I'm sure.
So tell me something, because we ask this question all the time. When I get an addiction that's just a little bit different, so hardcore heroin and alcohol, placing the bet or driving to the casino, which is more intoxicating?
I think planning it out, but even I mean, it's weird because like I used to love to play craps, and it was like you'd be up and there's just this energy right on the table and you're just like woohoo, and then it goes completely deflated when you hit a 7. But then it's like, okay, what's the next one going to be? And so it's really just waiting for the anticipation of that next thing. But here's what I learned is why I realized I needed to quit, because my family, I have 2 young kids. We like to watch movies, and I'd have to take a Redbox movie back. And I'm like, I have to get out of the house to take the movie back, guys. Like, I don't want to spend $1.50, right? But really, I just wanted to get out of the house to go buy some scratch tickets and sit like a complete winner in my car and be like, nope, yes, nope. So it was more of the mental obsession of getting to a bet than it was the actual bet.
Yeah. Now, is that any different than knowing that you're going to go get your heroin or your crack cocaine and planning that out?
No, I think it's all related. It's just the thing is that I can get my dopamine hits without drugs, like physically putting something in versus that. So yeah, I think the process is the same. Like, how am I going to meet my dope dealer? How am I going to, my wife can't see, my kids won't see, and I get it. And then I go hide my car and do it and all those things. So yeah, there's definitely a connection for sure.
So tell us how you got here. Tell us what were like the event, or maybe there was multiple events.
Yeah, I'd say that the roller coaster that never ended. It's, you pull in to get off and you're like, oh, there it goes again, and just a complete different direction. But I mean, I started abusing alcohol at 14 years old, but I didn't have like a big traumatic childhood or anything. I had good parents and we went to church and did all that kind of stuff, but there was just something different about me and the way I was wired. And I just remember that first drink or the first drunk, I'll say, not the first drink, but the first drunk. And it was almost like alcohol just got me right there in the beginning. And that's what it was for the next 15 years, was just most everything I did involved alcohol to some degree.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was
Did you
scary.
Did you replace gambling with alcohol or alcohol with gambling?
It all went together. I mean, I started at 14. I remember 15 years old, we'd be gambling over at my friend Case's house, and we'd be drinking and gambling. And like, I barely even have a job. My parents didn't give me like allowance. I mean, I had to go earn my money, mowing yards and stuff. But I mean, we'd be placing, there's this one game we used to call I think it was bullshit. And it was like, you had 3 cards and you had to, if you held on to them, and everyone that held on, you had to like double the pot or whatever it was. And I put like $100 in. It was crazy, but that just stayed until, and I'm 48 now. So it wasn't until I was 47 that I stopped gambling.
Wow.
So
it's just recent.
Yeah. I mean, 20 months ago that was when I realized the mental obsession piece had taken over. That it was just that time. It was time to quit. So, kind of like me, I'm all in or all out sometimes. But it took me 13 months going through Celebrate Recovery to actually finally break free from gambling. That's what worked for me.
Wow. So walk us through how you support humans with the mental obsession, because honestly, I mean, that's all of us, right? All humans really have a mental obsession. And now that we're in the midst of a pandemic, a political crisis as well, we have an addiction crisis, right? We have all of these things. There's obsessiveness in all of it. How do we do that?
Oh man, it's just finding balance. I always say if it's something that's taking up way too much of your time, even people that like spend time like spending hours researching COVID or 3 hours a day working out, or there's just the things get out of balance a lot of times. And I just ask them, how is this controlling your life? Mm-hmm. How much of it's taking your time? Like when you're having dinner with your family, are you present? Or are you thinking about whatever? And I started doing this recently, which was I'm a dreamer, a thinker, a creator. So my brain's always going, probably like both of yours, I would imagine, and just like, okay, how can I help people better? How can I do this? What else can I create or support that's already created? So I started doing this in the pool recently when I go swimming, because that's kind of like my exercise. And I started just when I love doing like breaststroke and freestyle. So when I'm taking a stroke, I'm just like stroke, breath, stroke, breath. And it totally calmed me down just so I can actually enjoy the physical activity. But things like that, I think, can help a lot of people with their process and over obsessions.
Can you do that again? That was really calming.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, everybody ready, Rob and Jennifer, here we go. Stroke, breath, stroke.
Oh, it's nice. I love it. Absolutely. So tell us about your website and what you do on there.
Yeah, so liftedfromtherut.com is where you can go learn about everything I do. But I do interventions. I help families walk through the process of a loved one that's just stuck, or a family that's stuck, and coming up with a plan to get them unstuck and on a healthier path. Recovery coaching, I love doing that. I just literally launched 3 new recovery coaching programs, group coaching programs I'm excited about for September. And podcasting, I mean, Dr. Rob, you've been on the podcast before, and some actually have the Beyond the Bars podcast. And then I'm launching a brand new one called Addiction, Freedom, and Faith in a couple weeks too. So that, and I do a lot of advocacy work down in the Capitol, and just, I have a lot of things going, but they're all related to helping people move forward and live like their best life.
Yeah. So tell us, what would it look like to do recovery coaching with you? Is it 6 months, 9 months after they've recovered? How do you work with people?
Yeah. I mean, if they're fresh out of treatment, I think that's a great place to find people, because if they have a renewed life and they're excited about not going back to that lifestyle of addiction, then they can really embrace and be like a sponge and just absorb that. But, the great thing about coaching is you're not here to tell people what to do.
Yeah.
It's there to help them move forward into what they already know they want to do, but don't know how to get there. And that was a big shift for me, just seeing the beauty in that. Because as people with addictions, it's usually like, Jennifer, do this, Rob, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And then when you empower them to get that own decision to come, that was my choice to do that. Mm-hmm. It helps them go forward so much more. But yeah, in the group coaching setting, I love it because it creates that community of people. And when you can see people doing the work that are thriving, and you're kind of, just sitting back and half-assing your recovery coaching and not doing much and wanting that, then it helps move people forward, I think, in a group setting a lot more than a one-on-one.
Yeah.
I think as well that when you're half-assing it. I mean, people can see through you. I always say, I've seen some coaches, I've seen some psychologists, addiction psychologists, who's gone to school, for 5 or 6 years and got the PhD and never suffered, never been there, never been through the deal, the trauma and all that stuff. And, this is my opinion, and I think it's pretty true, that if you haven't been through the stuff, you can go to as many colleges and schools as you want, but people are going to see through you. And know that I have a counselor that I see. Now, there's a couple of things wrong when my wife goes looking for counselors. First of all, when they find out who I am, we spend most of the session asking, like, what Dr. Phil's like, what's Oprah like, what's it like to go on? And it's like, no, I'm here to help. So we found this woman. She's an ex-heroin addict. She's an ex-alcoholic. She's about 65. She looks like an old hippie, and she can curse better than me. And she's my girl. But because I know she's been there, I kind of trust her. And I'm telling her things that I've never told anybody, not even my wife. And I think people can see through that. Wouldn't you agree, Rob?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And whenever I hear someone say something like that, I laugh. Like when I was in the halfway house in my little prison stint, there was a girl that came in and she was teaching a parenting class, and she's never been married, didn't even have kids. And I'm like, or a marriage counselor that's never been married and hasn't been through the ups and the valleys and downs. And, and I'm not saying you have to be like a counselor has to have an addiction to be a good counselor, but it sure helps. Yeah.
I see. I kind of disagree with that. It's like, if you haven't I've been through it, don't come near me, because you can't tell. Because there's, look at gambling, for instance. Everyone thinks gambling is innocent. As innocent as you come. You don't come home wasted. You don't come home drunk. You don't come home impaired. You can't go to work today. I've got to take a bet. It's like, just heroin. I can't go to work. It's like all these secret things that what to look for. I wouldn't. Maybe Jennifer wouldn't, because I'm an alcohol and drug guy. So unless you've been there, people can pull a wool over your eyes. But it makes me smile when they come here and they try all these little tricks that I was trying when I was 12 years old. Yeah. And you think, really, so I think it's really important that you've been there and done it. What's your most fun time or the most fun accomplishment you've had with a client?
Oh, wow. Just open. It's always great when you're doing intervention with a family, and the whole family's, they've hired me, they're ready to go, but they just know the person's not going to go get help. And then they go, and then they write me a letter from a treatment center that says thank you. Mm-hmm. And that blew me away once, and it was just, I thought that was the coolest thing. And like that, somehow they found my address, sent me a letter, and just thanked me. And even yesterday, I went and sat down with a guy, and the mother was just like, he's not going to listen, he's not going to go. I get to the house, he's in his room, telling me to F off and everything he could through the door. I'm not coming out. Forget you. Get out. That's all right. That's cool, man. I'll be downstairs when you're ready to talk. I'm just here to have a conversation. And 15 minutes later, he came down. We had a great talk for 45 minutes. And he's like, okay, I'll do some stuff with you. And just was open, and the family's jaws were on the floor. And it's just about relating. It's about being real and personable with people, not a book text robot.
I tell this story that I've told before. Jen's heard it. But we got a call once for intervention, and the parents were very concerned that 4 interventionists have been tried before over the last 3 months. None of them have succeeded. So they heard our name from someone. They called me, and he said, look, it's not about the money, but we are willing to pay. And they mentioned a price. And I'm like, holy moly, what's the deal? And he told me, look, he's going to die. He needs to go to treatment. We can't throw him out, but he needs to go. So we went through everything, like, are you willing to throw him out? All the usual stuff. And it was on. This guy was like, 300 pounds. He was an ex-footballer, a lineman or something like that. So I really get into the occasion. When I'm going to do an intervention, we've done about, over 2,000. But when we go there, I want to find out as much as I can about the guy. So this guy's a big fighting guy. and he's going to be a lot of trouble. So I shaved my head. Now, when I shave my head, I look like a thug. I mean, I look mean, you know what I mean? And I'm a big guy. So I shaved my head, and we had 4 guys ready to go instead of just me and another guy. And we bowled down there, and we got handcuffs. If the police are listening, I'm only joking. We got handcuffs and everything, and we're going to handcuff him and throw him in the trunk of the car, as far as I'm concerned. So we bowls down there. Dad's a police officer or ex-police officer. So we walks in. We did all the thing, the family before the night, and then the day comes, and they get him in the house. Now, usually I'm in the house when they come, but there's one way out, and he's going to bolt. So we get him in the house first, then I come through. Rob, I bust myself up as big as possible. I walk through the door. I looked at him, and I says, "Okay, you know who I am?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go." And I'm like, holy shit, I just shaved my head for nothing. But what a feeling when you're getting him in the car. You know, you think you've accomplished something.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm really curious because I come from the world where people would come in and kidnap the kids and take them to, the place in Utah, which was the scary place. And so does it work? Because it didn't work a lot of times with those kids.
Yeah, I don't work with a lot of minors in what I do, but what I do know is I know some kids that have gone through that. It's both ends of the spectrum, right? It's their life has totally changed. They got it. They understood it was out of love, and their parents were freaking out to the point of, 10 years later to do an intervention. Like, I'm still pissed when they sent me to wilderness camp when I was 15. I'm like, okay, so that's been like 10 years. You've been mad at them for that. And so we talk about how that hurts them. But yeah, it's both ends of the spectrum. I don't actually know what the percentages are of how people's lives fully change, but I know they can work or not work. I think it just depends on the harboring of resentment that the young one has and what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Oh, I want it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so tell me how long you've been sober. I think you might have said that, but I'm asking again. And how hard was it for you to get sober?
Oh, yeah. So I found sobriety June 7th, 2001. But leading up to that, it was just years of just hell in my head because I hated who I was becoming. I didn't even know who I really was because I lived this life as a chameleon. So I would be different around you, Jennifer, than I would around you, Rob, and around other people. And so I just kind of got lost in the whole world of like the facade because I was like fit and worked out and ran half marathons and had a bunch of girlfriends. So all those things, right? The external stuff. But over time, it just started dwindling in my inside. And I started hating who I saw in the mirror. I wanted to kill myself repeatedly. I dealt a lot with suicide ideation leading up to 2001. And about, 4 months or so before this incident happened, I would start, and I didn't know what was happening, but I would literally see myself veer off while I was driving straight down a highway, and I would see my car like hit a median and explode and blow up, and I would see myself dead on the side of the road. And that was happening a lot more in intensity, and I was having lots of blackouts, and it was just a really dark period of time. So I was seeking all this worth in girls and jobs, and I was lying to everybody. So I was just lost. But you would never know that if you knew me, if you hung out with me. You're like, man, Rob's so fun and positive. And I'm just like, so it was building and building and building and building. And then June 7th, 2001, the evening of that, I was hanging out in a bar in good old Fort Wayne, Indiana, second largest city in Indiana, just in case you're wondering. And, and all of a sudden the bar got completely dead silent. I mean, music, voices, everything got completely dead silent. And I audibly heard the words, "You're done." And then the bar got really loud again. And so I'm the only one that really happened to, but I remember looking at my buddy, Sean O'Brien, and I was like, "Sean, I got to go home. And I think I'm finally done drinking." And like good drinking buddies, we laugh and like, "Yeah, whatever. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow." But I drove home and I feel as though I was sober, but I was drunk at the same time because something happened. There was a shift that just happened and I had no clue what it was. So I thought I was done drinking. And so I go home and walk up my 12 stairs to my little 1-bedroom apartment in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And on autopilot, I just put about 350 pounds on the barbell as I walked right past my dog, Jake, laid down on the workout bench, picked up that barbell and just unhinged my elbows and dropped that weight right across my chest. And what I believe happened in that moment was God reached down and grabbed that bar, holding it. And this is milliseconds of time. And then he says to my dog, like, you need to save your dad. And so my dog starts nudging my knee with his head and just kind of like, what are you doing, Dad? And my heart completely broke for Jake. And I was like, oh my gosh, who's going to feed you in the morning? And I started thinking about my parents. And, I believe, again, God's just holding that bar and saying, okay, let's finish this up, and puts that bar back on the rack. And I felt completely different in that moment right there. Wow. Poured out, because I could drink 2 bottles of scotch in a day, because I was in sales and marketing. So I was everyone's friend. So let's go get drinks and whatever. And so that's why I was about $67,000 in credit card debt also. But it was in that moment, I slept in peace for the first time in, I don't know, let's say a decade. And I woke up and I was a completely different man.
Wow.
And I made that phone call to what I meant to call my Aunt Carol. She's in heaven now after 34 years of sobriety. But she had about 25 years at that time-ish or whatever. And she, but actually I called my parents, and that was the phone call my mom had been praying for years. And she knew I was like not doing well, but had no clue how bad I was, which is an indication if people think their loved one's struggling, they're struggling a lot more than you think.
Right.
And, but here's the crazy thing. I mean, I cried for an hour. My mom cried for an hour, and my aunt picked me up, and she took me to my first recovery meeting of willingness, not by the courts or anything else, but it was just by my willingness. And she pulls up on a curb in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we walk straight to the back of this establishment to my first, AA meeting of willingness. But along that walk, it was a back of a bar was my first meeting. And we walked past, like, I don't know, hundreds of bottles of liquor straight to the back. And there were people that were laughing and they were happy and talking about this. And I'm like, okay, 350-pound barbell across the chest, or these people are really happy. So I was just in. And I didn't go through detox. I didn't go through withdrawals, nothing. It was almost like I had never, ever drank alcohol. And I haven't had one craving since that day in recovery. So
that's an amazing story. Absolutely love that story. Give me 3 words that describe you today in your recovery, your happiness, your life.
Balanced,
like
passionate, and wacky.
And what,
like that. What's that?
What's your purpose?
To just help people live a transformed life.
Transformed being.
Man,
it sounds like freedom.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the freedom from addiction. I talk about, going from addiction to recovery to living a transformed life. And because that's what I've received. And now granted, recovery hasn't been easy. I mean, I went to prison in year 11 of my recovery after a mental breakdown, and that's a crazy story in itself. But it was in that I really found my purpose to live the rest of my life to help other people not go where I did in recovery, right? Like not drinking or drugging, but what the heck's recovery if your spiritual conditioning totally stinks, right? And again, the whole prison story is that's another concept, but I'm just grateful today.
I think if you have a spiritual life, then you might as well drink, you might as well drug. If your life doesn't get any better on a daily basis, if your life's not amazing, I have to tell people, I mean, I think I said this on your show, Rob, that I once, on many occasions, but there was one instance, I was at the Savoy Hotel in the penthouse suite with Elton John. And I'm like, does life get any better than this? There's more cocaine on the table that I've seen in my life. There's all sorts of liquor you could imagine. There's women there that are just absolutely beautiful. There's guys. It was just an absolute amazing place. And, I was sat there going, wow, this is unbelievable. But how far I was destroyed and how lonely I was. I remember organizing a work to do, and it must have been friends of friends of friends. So say there were 500 people at this establishment. Yeah. I remember in the middle of the dance floor and feeling the loneliest person in the world. And I can still do that today if I'm not careful, because isolation is one of my biggest things. And I think we're all very good at putting that front on. Where, me and Jen know that there's sometimes, Rob, you don't know this probably, but there's sometimes when I can't even get out of bed, I'm that depressed. And we have a saying for it here. It's one of those days. That's what J Bear's my wife. She'll say to me, and she'll cancel all appointments, and we won't make a fuss of it. And it's just the way it is. And we'll acknowledge it. We'll own it, and we'll move on because tomorrow's a better day.
Yeah. Amen to that. That's totally true.
Yeah. So your addiction did not send you to prison, or it did?
No, my isolation, and basically it was my own self-loathing because I feel like I was failing as a husband and a father. And because when I got sober, I wasn't any of those. I was single. And as time went on, and I, married my wife, Jen, and my son Zeke was born, and my daughter Eden was born, and then I had owned a business. Like, all those things were new, and I felt very incompetent in all three of those areas. And over time, it was just like I'm not providing what I could, the life, and I had a history of self-sabotage. But keep in mind, I was also seriously in my gambling addiction, like going to the grocery store and buying a whole stack of for like $600 or $700 of scratch tickets, and just going and sitting in my office and closing the door. It was my own office, and I'd still close the door and nobody was there. And I just sit there and just do that thing, and just scratch. And what am I going to hit? How am I going to get this quick fix? How am I going to get out of this hole? How am I going to do this? I'm a dead again. And so I was dealing with the suicide ideation to the point where we talk about self-harming. And one day I was sitting in my office looking at a stack of papers, having no clue where to even begin because I was just paralyzed with fear. Because I became a fear-driven man instead of a faith-driven man at this point. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I literally just took my hand and I hit myself in the side of the head. And that felt good. That was like a gambling hit, the dopamine just released quick in my brain. I'm like, oh, wow. And then I could function. And I started doing that to the point where I couldn't even put my glasses on because the side of my head hurt so bad. And nobody knew I was doing that. And then I lost my insurance agency because of production numbers. And, you're just done. There's nothing else. You're just done. It's all gone, kaputs. And so now I've really failed in my life. And in the same time, my wife is just like, our lives were very, she was busy with event and promotion things she did with a radio station, and I was working nights and weekends at my job. So we didn't connect very well as a couple, and kind of grew apart. And my wife was kind of like, I just wish we could just spend time together, even if we're poor. Mm-hmm. Right. So she was kind of like looking at this new season of like, okay, we're going to heal. We're going to rest. She was getting ready to leave her job after a 4-month notice that she gave them to train the new person. And so she was kind of excited about this next chapter. I'm in this space of horrid torment of myself. So in February that next year, that's when I had my major mental breakdown one night. And it was very confusing what happened, we watched a very inspirational movie, and it was about redemption and someone changing their life. But it was also the guy that dealt with this message that he sucked and he wasn't good enough for his father or anybody. And I felt like I sucked and wasn't good enough for my wife. And that was my own portrayal in my head of our life, right? She didn't tell me you're not good enough.
Right.
But in that evening, I literally I'm a late owl, still am, stayed up, and I was on the couch and I was looking for a job and working on a side hustle that I had. And all of a sudden I just decided to get up and organize our townhouse. And I never knew I had a problem with clutter, but I had a problem with clutter, and our house was cluttered because we were getting to remodel our kitchen and just other things were going on. And all of a sudden, the next thing I knew, some boxes were on fire on my covered patio that I had lit, and it just caught on fire and destroyed pretty much everything we had in a townhouse. Everybody got out. Nobody got hurt or anything, but that scared the crap out of me that I don't even know how I got there. But now when I can look back, I can see how I got to that isolation. But that was my mental breakdown. And, some people have affairs. Some people, drive their car into a tree, whatever. That was how my world collapsed. And from that, incredible miracles and things have happened, and God's shown up in so many ways. I could write 10 books about that, but that was my massive moment of clarity. And my wife and I we're still healing from that. I caused a lot of damage and left my family for what was supposed to be anywhere from 2 years to 56 years in prison. And thank God my 13-year sentence, I was only spent 10 and a half months behind bars. And anyway, lots of miracles in that, but I found myself again through that, and literally, you know, rising above the ashes is my story.
Miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle.
Yeah.
That's then, Rob, we want to thank you so much for coming on our show. Absolutely amazing story. The website's scrolling across the bottom, guys. Where else can people find you, Rob? What's your platforms?
I'm on Instagram. I'm working more on the Instagram world, but really Facebook's kind of my platform. So just find me on there, Rob Lohman. And I always tell people you can just call me directly, because if you need help, just call me, because that's the way to do it, at 970-331-4469.
And liftedfromtherut.com is the
Yes, sir.
website. Can vouch for this guy. Peeps is an awesome guy. He has an awesome story, but he's an awesome journey. And just like all of us on this show today, we just want to help people. This is never about the money. It's never about the fame. It's always about, let's try and help another human being. And I know Jen, and I guess you as well, Rob. It's not even being an alcoholic or a gambler. It's about, how can I help my fellow human being to receive a better life? And for me, that's through God and a spiritual journey. And living life to the full. I mean, from homelessness to where I am today is humanly impossible, period. I always say that. I had to have God's help. So if those people out there are atheists, if those people need help, if you're depressed, if you're going through gambling, if you're going through drugs, if you're just not happy with your life, if you're setting fires on the balcony, you don't even know it. I mean, you know your side of that. You know that if you're doing something that doesn't make sense, then you need to contact Rob Lohman. Is such a great guy. liftedfromtherut.com. And again, I just want to say thank you, and I'll let Jennifer say bye.
Yes, Rob, thanks for sharing your story. I really, it's always inspirational to hear how people can come from the bottom of the rut, I guess, and really recreate their lives. What do you have to say to anybody that doesn't even know where to start?
If you're questioning how substances or anything is affecting your life, you're not happy, it's just reach out to somebody locally. I mean, find a local friend, find a confidant, call a phone number, reach out to the three of us. I mean, just take that step. No expectations, just call somebody, just so it doesn't get worse.
Yeah. Excellent. One more time, guys, liftedfromtherut.com. Rob Lohman was the guest. Rob Lohman was in the house. Oh boy, we'll be in the house. Guys, we'll be right back. We've got some giveaways for you. But for now, thank you, Rob. See you in a sec, guys. Stick around.
Thank you.
Awesome guest, Jen. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, that was really fun. I mean, you know, it's always fun to hear the stories and hear how people overcame, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love different stories. It's always nice to have a twist on it, like the gambling thing. And it's always nice to, when you hear people's stories about setting fires on the balcony and not even knowing you did it. That's what we're talking about, I call it a mental injury. I don't call it a mental illness, because we can recover from it. So it's a mental injury. But yeah, it's all these different things that somebody out there who listened to last week will relate to better, because they heard that today.
Yeah, I know. And what do you, I mean, have you treated a lot of people with gambling addiction?
I haven't, to be honest, probably one or two over the last 30 years. I'm a little still intrigued about it. Now, we have had people come to us and I've not felt that confident, you know, because the mind is a little bit different. The addiction is the same, but because I can't monitor it, I mean, I can monitor drug and alcohol. I'll test you, you know, I'll give you a UA or breathalyze you, but with gambling, it's so hard. And then when they come in the next day, what I found with one we took on, gambling, people who gamble are very hard to read. Now, as most of you may know, I got a PhD in behavioral science, so I can read anybody usually. Compulsive liars or gamblers are the worst people in the world to read. So if they've been bad the night before and they come in, I have no idea. So they can get away with murder, and it's just like I feel defeated when you find out that you've been failing all this time.
But it's the same neural pathways. It's the same groove in the brain.
Yep, it's self-sabotaging. We like to build up a little future for ourselves. Alcoholics, addicts, gamblers, all these guys are fantastic starters, but terrible finishers. So what happens is we start something like marriage or a business or a relationship, and we look great when we start. But over a period of time, we want to tear it down because we're not good enough. And we gamble and gamble and gamble, or drink. And at the end of the day, we know what's going to happen because, there's a song by Robbie Williams called Come Undone. And Robbie's a friend of mine. And he tells, he's talking about going to his first date with a girl. And while he's traveling there, he's thinking how he's going to break up with her. That's chronic addict, alcoholic, gambling thought patterns. Is how am I going to get out of this before I even start? Because we're scared of failure. We're scared of success. So yeah, that was very, very, I like that. It was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting show.
Very, very good. Always love the diversity.
Yeah, I love anything, stuff like that. Okay, guys, what do you want to win today? You want to win 2 books, some T-shirts, and a mask? How about that? Okay, well, I'm telling you what we're going to get. Jenny's going to come up with a question for you. He says, putting her on the spot. So, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. It's only available on Amazon. You can get a free signed copy from me. We will send it to you from the office, free of charge. We'll even pay posting for you anywhere in the USA. Sorry, guys, in UK who follow me. It's just cost like $6 million to send anything over there. So Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. And the Addiction Diaries from Jennifer Lovely will be signed and sent to you hard. Mine's a soft copy. She's a hard copy, which is even more cool. So you can win that usual T-shirt. We don't negotiate with the disease of alcoholism or addiction. And we'll also throw a face mask in free as well. All under the same question. So if 2 or 3 come in, we'll give 1 book to somebody, another book to somebody, and the T-shirt and mask to somebody else. Or we might even bung them all together if the answer's good. So Jen, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but what question can they answer to win these goodies?
Who is? I'll make you ask one question and I'll ask another.
Okay.
Who is the doctor that supported Bill W?
There you go. Who's the doctor that supported Bill W or paired up with Bill W? Yeah. Excellent stuff. That's one question. And my question is a bit of neuroscience. What is neuroplasticity? What is neuroplasticity is one of the questions. And the second one, who coupled with Bill Wilson and was a doctor, and I just give the game away. Sorry. It's that easy, guys. You can win anything if you want to. So who teamed up with Dr. something with Bill W, and what is neuroplasticity? That's the 2 questions. If you can't answer them, he said, giving the answer away, you must be crazy. Message me, email us, email Jen, email myself, and we'll get back to you with the winners. And if they agree, some don't, we'll announce them on the show next week.
Yay. Perfect.
Perfect. Next week, we've got a special guest as well, a new guest every single week, guys. It's absolutely awesome show, 9 o'clock every Wednesday, Breaking Through Addiction, or BTA, as we're going to start calling it. Don't forget to visit the Facebook page, Breaking Through Addiction, and also Families Breaking Through Addiction. That's me and Jen. Watch out for new websites coming from me and Jen. There's a coaching website. There's a family addiction website. We're up and going as quick as we possibly can to get the landing page for you so you can have a look. JenniferLovelyCoaching.com and RobKelly.com are the websites, and we're on all the platforms. So for me, guys, thank you so much for listening. I know the numbers were pretty high again. I'm already seeing that's without going live, going on platforms tonight. So for me, guys, I'll say thank you so much, and thank you to Rob Lohman for joining us. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a fantastic week, guys.
Thank you, guys. Have an amazing week. See you next week.